I died on my 23rd birthday, choking on champagne my sister had handed me with a smile. The bubbles burned going down wrong, and as I clawed at my throat, gasping, I saw Maya standing over me, her face carefully arranged in mock horror. But her eyes were cold and calculating, already planning her story for the paramedics. The last thing I heard before everything went black was her voice, high and panicked for the neighbors. Sasha! Oh my God, someone help! When I opened my eyes, I was 14 again, sitting in my childhood bedroom with its faded yellow wallpaper and the water stain on the ceiling shaped like a bird. My hands were smaller, unscarred. My hair, I grabbed a strand and held it to the light, was the deep auburn I'd had before years of cheap box dye and stress had dulled it to mud brown. I had been reborn. Somehow, impossibly, I had been given 9 years to do everything differently. The first thing I did was lock my bedroom door and sob into my pillow, not from sadness, but from pure, overwhelming relief. I was alive. I was young. And this time, I knew exactly what Maya was. Let me tell you about my sister, about the 9 years that stretched between Maya and this moment and my death. Or rather, my first death. Maya was 3 years older than me, 17 to my 14, and she had spent every single one of those years making my existence miserable while wearing the face of the perfect, loving sister for everyone else. It started small when we were children. She'd break my toys and cry until our parents punished me for making her upset. She'd eat my Halloween candy and swear she hadn't touched it. She'd copy my homework and somehow get better grades because she explained it so much more clearly to the teacher. Our parents, our weak, image-obsessed parents, always believed her. Always. Maya had something I didn't. Effortless charm. She could walk into a room and own it. She knew exactly what to say to make adults adore her and peers envy her, and she hated, absolutely hated, that I existed as anything other than her shadow. The worst part? She stole everything from me. Not just possessions, though she did that too, wearing my clothes without asking and somehow making everyone forget they'd been mine first. No, she stole my identity. Every hobby I picked up, she claimed. Every friend I made, she befriended first and turned against me. Every achievement I earned, she diminished. When I was 16 in my first life, I discovered I had a natural talent for painting. I'd never tried before. Maya had always monopolized the artistic one role in our family with her adequate but uninspired sketches. But when I picked up a brush in art class, something clicked. My teacher, Ms. Chen, was stunned. She said I had a rare gift that I should apply to prestigious art schools. I made the mistake of painting at home, of being excited about it. Within a week, Maya had bought professional supplies and declared she was rediscovering her true passion. Within a month, she'd convinced our parents to pay for private lessons. Lessons they'd said we couldn't afford when Mrs. Chen suggested them for me. Within 3 months, Maya was entering competitions using techniques she'd learned by watching me, beating me with my own stolen skill, taking credit for a style she'd mimicked. I stopped painting. It hurt too much to do something I loved while watching her wear it like a costume. The hair was the final straw in my first life, though I didn't realize it until now, sitting in my 14-year-old body with the knowledge of everything to come. My auburn hair had been the one thing that was distinctly mine. It was unusual, a deep, rich red-brown that caught light like copper wire, natural and striking. People always commented on it. Where does she get that gorgeous color? They'd ask our mother. Not from Maya, whose hair was a mousy brown she'd always hated. When I was 19, I'd been dating someone. Ethan, a kind pre-med student who treated me like I mattered. Maya had smiled when I introduced them, had been so welcoming. Too welcoming. Within 2 months, she'd dyed her hair auburn. Not just red, not auburnish. The exact shade of mine, achieved through expensive salon treatments that our parents somehow found money for. I just wanted a change, she'd said innocently when I confronted her, tears streaming down my face. It's just hair, Sasha. Don't be so dramatic. Ethan left me for her 3 weeks later. She's like a better version of you, he'd said, and those words had carved themselves into my soul. She's confident, successful, fun. And honestly, that hair looks better on her. After that, I dyed my hair dark brown, trying to reclaim something, anything, that was mine. But the damage was done. Maya had taken the last piece of me that I'd thought was untouchable. In my first life, things spiraled from there. I dropped out of college, I'd been studying art history, and Maya had suddenly developed a passion for it too, landing in my classes, befriending my professors. I worked dead-end jobs while Maya sailed through school on my parents' money and borrowed insights from my abandoned essays. She became an art consultant, schmoozing with wealthy clients, using the knowledge of technique and style she'd absorbed from watching me during those few precious months when I'd still painted. I was alone, broke, and broken by the time I turned 23. The birthday party had been her idea. To reconnect, she'd said sweetly. I miss my little sister. I'd been so desperate for family, for any scrap of love, that I'd believed her, and she'd poisoned me. I was sure of it now. The champagne had tasted wrong, bitter under the bubbles, and Maya had insisted I drink that specific glass. She'd probably made it look like an accident. Poor Sasha, always so clumsy, choked on her drink at her own party. I'd never know for sure, but I knew Maya, and I knew she'd wanted me gone. Sitting there at 14, I felt a rage so pure it was almost holy. This time would be different. This time, I had the one thing Maya could never steal: knowledge. I knew her playbook. I knew every move before she made it, and I was going to destroy her, but I had to be smart. Maya's strength was in her image, her carefully constructed persona of perfection. I couldn't just lash out. I'd tried that in my first life, and it had only made me look jealous and unstable. No, I needed to be strategic. I needed to become someone she couldn't copy, couldn't compete with, couldn't even comprehend. The next morning, I went downstairs to breakfast where my family sat in their usual configuration. Dad behind his newspaper, Mom fussing over Maya, and an empty chair for me that no one had noticed was still empty. There you are, Sasha, Mom said absently, not looking up from where she was praising Maya's adorable outfit. A dress I recognized from my first life as the one Maya would borrow from my closet next month and claim she'd bought herself. Your sister was just telling us about her ideas for the spring dance committee. Isn't she wonderful? Wonderful, I echoed, and something in my tone made Maya's eyes snap to me. For just a second, I saw confusion there. I'd always been meek, always swallowed my anger. But I'd smiled when I said it, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. And Maya was smart enough to sense something had shifted. Are you okay? She asked with false concern. You look different. I'm perfect, I said, and it was true. For the first time in either of my lives, I felt perfect, perfectly clear, perfectly calm, perfectly ready. That weekend, I did something that would have been unthinkable in my first life. I took all my savings from birthday money and babysitting, about $300, and went to the most expensive salon in our city. Not the one Maya went to, somewhere better. I want platinum blonde, I told the stylist, a glamorous woman named Vera with silver hair and kind eyes. As light as you can get it without destroying my hair, and I want it to look expensive. Vera raised an eyebrow. That's a big change from this beautiful Auburn, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. It took 6 hours. Bleach, tone, treatment, trim. Vera was an artist, and she treated my hair like a masterpiece in progress. When she finally turned me toward the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The girl looking back at me was striking, almost ethereal. The platinum blonde was bright and cool, a complete departure from the warm auburn. It made my skin look porcelain, my eyes, light brown, almost amber, look golden. But more than that, it made me look confident, like someone who made bold choices, like someone who couldn't be copied because she was too busy being original. You look like a different person, Vera said admiringly, like a movie star. That's the idea, said, and tipped her everything I had left. When I walked through the door at home, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Mom dropped the plate she was washing. Dad actually lowered his newspaper. And Maya stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor, her face going white, then red, then white again. What did you do? She breathed. Changed my hair, I said casually, tossing my new platinum locks over my shoulder. I wanted something different, something that's actually me. You look, Mom struggled for words, you look so grown up. It's so light, Dad said, and he actually sounded impressed. Must have cost a fortune. It did, I said, meeting Maya's eyes. Worth every penny. I could see the gears turning in her head. In my first life, at 19, I'd hidden my auburn hair after she copied it. I'd made myself smaller, duller. But now, at 14, I'd done the opposite. I'd made myself brighter, bolder, impossible to ignore. And I could see Maya trying to calculate her response. She couldn't dye her hair platinum immediately. It would be too obvious, too desperate. She'd just recently committed to the auburn she'd been planning to copy from me in a few years. If she switched now, only weeks after talking about finding her perfect shade, she'd look flaky, impulsive. She'd look like what she was, a copycat. It's different, Maya finally said, and I could hear the barely controlled anger under the neutral tone. Very different. Thank you, I said sweetly. I thought it was time I stood out instead of blending in. That night, I heard her in her room crying to her friend on the phone. She's being so weird lately, Maya sobbed. She dyed her hair this crazy platinum color and now everyone keeps staring at her. And Mom says she looks like a model and I don't understand why she'd ruin her pretty auburn hair. I smiled in the darkness of my room. Let her cry. Let her realize slowly that I wasn't going to play the game by the old rules anymore. The next few weeks were crucial. I had 9 years of knowledge about what was coming, and I intended to use every bit of it. In my first life, I'd been reactive, always responding to Maya's moves. This time, I would be proactive. I would build a life she couldn't infiltrate because I'd be moving too fast, too strategically, too far ahead. First, school. In my first life, I'd been a B student, too anxious and depressed to focus. But I'd been smart. I'd just never had the confidence to show it. This time, I started raising my hand in class. I stayed after to talk to teachers. I joined the debate team, something Maya had always dismissed as for nerds. I was careful not to be too perfect. That would raise questions. But I let my intelligence show. Within a month, my English teacher, Mr. Kowalski, approached me after class. Sasha, I've noticed a real change in you this semester. Your essay on The Great Gatsby was genuinely insightful. Have you thought about entering the regional writing competition? In my first life, I'd been a painter. This time, I'd be a writer. Maya had no interest in writing. She thought it was boring, solitary work. She craved the visual, the immediate admiration of art you could hang on a wall. Writing would be mine and mine alone. I'd love to, I told Mr. Kowalski. Second, social life. In my first life, I'd been a loner by the time I was 16, driven into isolation by Maya's systematic destruction of my friendships. This time, I chose my friends carefully. I avoided the popular kids Maya gravitated toward and instead befriended the smart, loyal ones, kids like Jenny Chen, whose mother was my old art teacher, and Marcus Rodriguez, captain of the debate team, and Aisha Muhammad, who ran the school newspaper. These weren't people Maya could easily charm. They valued substance over style, authenticity over performance. And when I introduced them to Maya, because I had to, living in the same house, I watched her try and fail to work her magic. Your sister seems nice, Aisha said diplomatically after Maya had tried to monopolize a conversation about Aisha's article on school funding. But she doesn't really listen, does she? She just waits for her turn to talk. Yeah, I said, and left it at that. Let them draw their own conclusions. Third, and most crucially, I started planning for the future. I had 9 years until my death date, but I wasn't going to wait until I was 23 to start winning. I was going to build something so successful, so undeniably mine, that Maya couldn't touch it. I remembered fragments from my first life, things I'd heard about or read about but never pursued. Bitcoin. I was 14 in 2015. Bitcoin was worth about $200 per coin. In 2021, it would peak at nearly $65,000. I didn't have much money, but I had enough to buy one coin, maybe two if I was careful. I spent weeks figuring out how to set up a digital wallet, how to make a purchase, how to hide it from my parents. By the time I was 15, I had 1.5 Bitcoin. I made a note to sell at the peak and set a calendar reminder in my email, one I'd check religiously. But I also needed something more immediate, something visible. I needed to build a reputation. So I started a blog. In 2015, blogging was evolving into influencer culture, but it hadn't fully transformed yet. If you were smart and consistent, you could still build something real. I called my blog Platinum Thoughts. On the nose, maybe, but memorable. I wrote about books, about philosophy, about what it meant to be young and trying to figure out who you were when everyone expected you to be someone else. I didn't write about Maya. I never mentioned her. But anyone who read between the lines could see the themes: authenticity versus performance, the violence of being erased, the courage it took to choose yourself. My writing improved quickly, muscle memory from my first life. When I'd written journals full of pain and rage that no one ever read, this time people read. First tens, then hundreds, then thousands. I was anonymous, just platinum. But my words resonated. People called my blog raw, honest, fearless. Maya noticed, of course. She stalked my blog obsessively. I could see her trying to figure out if I was writing about her, if she should be worried. But I gave her nothing concrete, nothing she could use against me. Just my thoughts, my growth, my voice. The one thing she'd never been able to steal because she'd never let me develop it in the first place. By the time I was 16, my life looked nothing like it had in my first timeline. I was a straight-A student, captain of the debate team, editor of the school newspaper, and a blogger with 50,000 followers. My platinum hair had become my trademark. People at school called me Platinum Sasha or just Plat. I was known. I was liked. I was visible in a way I'd never been before. And Maya was losing her mind. She'd tried to dye her hair platinum 6 months after I did. I'd expected it. By then, enough time had passed that she thought she could get away with it. She went to her salon, showed them a picture of me, demanded they match it. They tried. God, they tried. But platinum blonde isn't like Auburn. It's not forgiving. It requires maintenance, skill, the right base color. Maya's darker hair fought the bleach. They got her to a brassy yellow blonde that looked cheap and fried. She came home in tears, and for once I actually felt bad for her, for about 30 seconds. "It'll grow out," Mom said, trying to be comforting while obviously disappointed. She'd gotten used to my platinum, to the compliments from her friends about her stunning daughter. Now Maya looked like a bad bleach job, which is exactly what she was. "It looks nothing like Sasha's," Maya sobbed. "Why does everything work for her now?" "Because I'm not you," I thought. Because I chose something that suited me, not something I saw in someone else. But I didn't say it. I just offered her a sympathetic smile and went back to my homework. She tried to dye it back to brown, but the damage was done. Her hair was fried, breaking off. She had to cut it short, pixie short, to save what was left. And while the cut was actually flattering, it wasn't the long, flowing platinum she'd wanted. It wasn't mine. After the hair disaster, Maya switched tactics. If she couldn't copy me, she'd try to undermine me. She started spreading rumors at school, small ones at first, testing the waters. Sasha's blog is probably fake. I bet she has someone else write her debate arguments. She's so different from how she used to be. It's kind of creepy. But my friends shut it down immediately. "Your sister's weird," Jenny told me. "She keeps trying to say stuff about you, but it's so obviously jealous. Everyone can see it." Maya's problem was that she'd spent so many years building her image as the perfect, sweet, accomplished sister that her jealousy was glaring by contrast. People started to notice the pattern. Every time I succeeded, Maya tried to diminish it. Every time I got praise, Maya redirected attention to herself. It was transparent, desperate, and deeply unappealing. Our parents, though, they still didn't see it. They were so invested in Maya as their golden child that they refused to acknowledge reality. When I won a regional writing competition at 17, Mom's first response was, "That's nice, dear. Maya, tell Sasha about your promotion at the boutique." The boutique job, right. Maya had been working part-time at an expensive clothing store. using her employee discount to buy things she couldn't afford and then returning them after wearing them once. I knew this because I'd done the same thing in my first life, desperate to look put together on a budget. It was kind of sad watching her repeat my old mistakes while I'd moved so far beyond them. The real turning point came during the spring of my junior year. I was 17 and I'd been accepted into a prestigious summer writing workshop at a university 3 states away. Full scholarship, all expenses paid. It was a huge honor. Only 20 students nationwide were selected. Mr. Kowalski had nominated me, and my blog had apparently impressed the selection committee. I was ecstatic. This was the kind of opportunity that would look incredible on college applications, that would connect me with established writers and editors, that would launch my career. I'd never had anything like this in my first life. This was proof that I was building something real, something Maya couldn't touch. I should have known she'd try anyway. The night before I was supposed to leave for the workshop, I came home to chaos. Mom was crying at the kitchen table. Dad was on the phone with someone, his voice tight and angry. And Maya was sitting on the couch, looking pale but triumphant. "What's going on?" I asked, my stomach dropping. "Sasha," Mom said, her voice thick with tears. "We need to talk about this blog of yours." My blood went cold. What about it?" "Maya showed us some of your posts, the ones where you write about family, about feeling erased and invalidated. Sasha, how could you air our private business like that? How could you make us sound like terrible parents?" I'd been so careful. I'd never used names, never given identifying details. But Maya had done her homework. She'd screenshotted posts, highlighted certain phrases, built a narrative that made it look like I was publicly trashing our family. "I never named anyone," I said, my voice shaking. "Those posts are about my feelings, my experiences. They're not about you." "They're clearly about us," Dad said, hanging up the phone. "And that's not even the worst part. Maya found posts where you talk about death, about being given a second chance. Sasha, are you having suicidal thoughts? Are you making up stories? About dying. This is serious." Oh, Maya was good. She'd taken my carefully crafted metaphors about rebirth and renewal, the heart of my blog's appeal, the way I wrote about transformation, and weaponized them. She'd made me sound unstable, delusional, potentially dangerous. "I write fiction," I said desperately. "Creative nonfiction. It's a style, a voice. This is just writing." "Writing that's making you miss reality," Mom said. "Sasha, we think you need help. We've been talking and we don't think you should go to this workshop. You need to stay home, see a therapist, get your head straight." "No," I said. "No, you can't do this. This workshop is everything. It's my future." "Your future is more than some blog," Dad said. "Your mental health comes first." I looked at Maya. She was biting her lip, playing the concerned sister, but her eyes were gleaming with satisfaction. She'd done it. She'd found a way to sabotage me, to take away the one thing that was purely mine, just like always. Except this time, I wasn't going to let her win. "Fine," I said, and watched Maya's eyes widen in surprise. She'd expected me to fight, to scream, to break down. "I'll see a therapist, I'll talk about my feelings, but I'm going to that workshop because unlike Maya, who spent her whole life copying other people and working retail, I've actually earned something meaningful. And you can't take that from me just because she's jealous." The room went silent. I'd never, ever spoken to them like that. Maya's face went red. "Sasha," Mom started. "No," I cut her off. "I'm done pretending. Maya has spent my entire life stealing from me. She stole my hobbies, my friends, my boyfriends, even the color of my hair, and every time I try to have something of my own, she ruins it. This time, she went through my private writing, twisted my words, and convinced you I'm crazy. That's not love. That's not sisterly concern. That's cruelty." "How dare you?" Maya whispered, but there were tears in her eyes, real ones, because somewhere deep down she knew it was true. I'm going to the workshop, I repeated. And when I get back, we're going to have a real conversation about this family and the way you treat me. But right now, I need to pack. I went upstairs before they could stop me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely fold clothes. But I did it. I packed my bag, I set my alarm, and the next morning, I took a cab to the airport using money I'd earned from freelance writing gigs. They didn't stop me. I think they were too shocked. The workshop was everything I'd hoped it would be. For 3 weeks, I was surrounded by people who loved words as much as I did, who understood the power of storytelling, who didn't know or care about Maya. I workshopped pieces about identity and transformation. I learned from published authors. I made connections with literary agents and editors. And I met Daniel. Daniel Chen was a junior, counselor at the workshop, a college senior studying creative writing at an Ivy League school. He was Jenny's older brother. I'd met him once or twice in my first life, but we'd never really talked. This time, we bonded over late-night editing sessions and terrible cafeteria coffee. Your work is incredible, Beta, he told me one night, reading over an essay I'd written about becoming someone new. It's like you're writing from experience, but obviously you're 17. How do you have this kind of insight? Maybe I'm older than I look, I joked, and he laughed. Daniel was kind, brilliant, and absolutely nothing like Ethan, the boy who'd left me for Maya in my first life. Where Ethan had been weak and easily swayed, Daniel was solid. He knew who he was, and he saw me, really saw me, in a way no one except my closest friends ever had. You're going to be someone, Baez-san, he said on the last night of the workshop. I can tell, you've got that thing that can't be taught. You're real. We exchanged numbers. He told me to apply to his university, that I'd love it, that they had one of the best creative writing programs in the country. I promised I would. When I came home, tanned and happy and full of stories, Maya took one look at me and burst into tears. Real tears this time, messy and desperate. I'm sorry, she sobbed. Sasha, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just worried about you, and I thought... You thought you could ruin this for me, I said calmly. Like you ruin everything. That's not fair. Isn't it? I set down my suitcase. Maya, I'm done fighting with you. I'm done letting you make me small. You can keep trying to tear me down, but it won't work anymore. I'm not the person you remember. And I wasn't. Over the next year, I proved it. I applied to universities, the best ones, the ones with full scholarships for students with my grades and my profile. I was accepted to 7 schools. I chose Daniel's University, the one with the famous writing program and the generous financial aid package that meant I wouldn't owe our parents a cent. My blog grew to 200,000 followers. I started getting sponsorship offers, small at first, then larger. Companies wanted me to promote books, promote thoughtful products aimed at young women. I was careful about what I accepted, only partnering with brands I actually believed in. But the money was good, really good. By the time I graduated high school, I had $15,000 in my bank account, all earned myself. And my Bitcoin? I'd been checking the price religiously. By the time I was 18, it had climbed to $10,000 per coin. I didn't sell yet. I remembered the peak was still years away. But just knowing it was there, growing, gave me a security I'd never felt in my first life. Maya, meanwhile, was falling apart. She'd aged out of the golden child role without building any real skills or identity of her own. She was 21. Still living at size. Home, still working at the boutique, still trying desperately to figure out who she was when she couldn't just copy me anymore. She tried other things. She attempted to start a YouTube channel. It failed. She wasn't genuine enough. She tried photography, gave up after 2 weeks. She even tried writing a blog. It was shallow and derivative, abandoned within a month. Nothing stuck because Maya had never learned how to be herself. She only knew how to be a reflection of other people. Our parents were starting to notice. Maybe you should go back to school, Dad suggested at dinner one night. Get a degree. Sasha's doing so well at university. Don't, Maya snapped. Don't compare me to her. But how could they not? I sent them pictures from campus, told them about my classes, about the literary magazine I was editing, about the essay I'd published in a national magazine. I was flourishing, and it was visible. Meanwhile, Maya was stagnating, and that was visible too. The real breaking point came during my sophomore year of college when I was 19, the age I'd been when Maya stole Ethan in my first life. Daniel and I had been dating for a year. It was a healthy relationship, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. He supported my writing, I supported his. We challenged each other intellectually. We made each other laugh. It was easy and right in a way relationships had never been for me before. I brought him home for Thanksgiving. It was the first time Maya had seen him in person, though she'd stalked his social media obsessively. I'd noticed the anonymous views on his Instagram stories. I watched her assess him. Handsome, smart, from a good family, clearly successful. I watched her decide to try. Because old habits die hard, and Maya's oldest habit was taking what was mine. She flirted with him over dinner, laughed too loudly at his jokes, touched his arm when she talked to him. She wore a dress she'd bought specifically for the occasion. Platinum blonde hair, she'd been growing it out, treating it, trying to match mine again, styled in waves, makeup perfect. Daniel was polite but distant. He barely looked at her. And when she suggested we all go out for drinks later, he said, "Actually, Sasha and I have plans. But thanks." After dinner, in the privacy of my childhood bedroom, Daniel said, "Your sister's intense?" That's one word for it. "She kept trying to talk to me about your blog, asking if I knew about your dark posts and whether I worried about you. It was weird." "She's trying to make you doubt me," I said. "She did the same thing to my last boyfriend. It worked then." "It won't work now," Daniel said, pulling me close. "I know who you are. I've read everything you've ever written. I've seen you at 3 a.m. working on an essay, surviving on coffee and stubbornness. I've watched you edit your friends' papers, even when you're drowning in your own work. You're the realest person I know. Whatever your sister says, whatever game she's playing, it doesn't change that." I actually cried. In my first life, no one had ever chosen me over Maya. No one had ever seen through her act. But Daniel did, and it healed something in me I didn't even know was still broken. Maya tried a few more times over the weekend, showing up in outfits similar to mine, trying to monopolize conversations, even suggesting she and Daniel connect on social media to share posts about Sasha. He declined every time, politely but firmly. By Sunday, she'd given up, retreating to her room with wounded pride. "What happened to you two?" Mom asked me before we left. "You used to be so close." "We were never close," I said. "You just wanted to believe we were." That was the last family holiday I attended for a while. I was busy building my life, and I didn't have energy to waste on Maya's games. My junior year, my blog caught the attention of a literary agent. She reached out, asked if I'd ever considered writing a book. A memoir, maybe, about identity and transformation and finding yourself when the world wants you to be someone else. I signed with her in December. By March, we had a book deal, a real one with a major publisher, for a sum that made my head spin. The advance alone was more money than my parents made in a year. Platinum Girl on Becoming Yourself would publish the summer after I graduated. The publisher loved the angle. Young woman transforms herself, builds a platform, finds her voice. They loved my story, even if they didn't know the full truth of it. They loved that I was photogenic and articulate and had a built-in audience of hundreds of thousands of followers who'd buy the book the day it launched. I called my parents to tell them. Mom answered. I could hear the TV in the background. Maya's voice complaining about something. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said when I told her about the book. She sounded tired. "You've done so well for yourself." "Thanks, Mom." "Listen, while I have you, could you talk to your sister? She's been having a hard time lately. Maybe you could give her some advice? Help her figure out her path like you figured out yours?" I almost laughed. After everything, after all the years of sabotage and cruelty, she wanted me to help Maya, to give her the roadmap to my success so she could copy it one more time. "No," I said, "I don't think I can do that." "Sasha, she's your sister. She's your daughter," I corrected, "and you've spent my whole life choosing her over me. So, no, I'm not going to help her now. She needs to figure out her own life, not steal mine." I hung up. It felt good. By the time I was 22, a year before my death date in my first life, I had graduated summa cum laude with a degree in creative writing. I had a published book that had hit the New York Times bestseller list. I had a literary agent, a speaking career, and contracts for 2 more books. I had a beautiful apartment in the city, paid for with my own money. I had Daniel, who'd proposed on graduation day with a ring he'd saved for months to buy, and I had Bitcoin worth over $60,000 per coin. I sold it all at the peak, just like I'd planned. After taxes, I walked away with over $80,000, which I immediately invested in a diversified portfolio. My financial advisor, I had a financial advisor now, called me preternaturally savvy for my age. If only she knew my life was everything I'd ever dreamed it could be. I was successful, happy, in love, and finally free of Maya's shadow. She couldn't touch me anymore. She couldn't copy me. My success was too large, too public, too authentically mine. She couldn't undermine me. I was too well established, too respected. She couldn't even reach me. I'd changed my number and blocked her on all social media. I thought I was safe. I thought I'd won completely. Then came my 23rd birthday, and everything came full circle. Daniel planned a party, nothing huge, just close friends, held at our favorite restaurant. I'd been anxious about the date, unable to shake the memory of my first death even though I'd changed everything. But Daniel assured me it would be perfect, that we'd make new memories to overwrite the old ones. I should have known better. I should have remembered that Maya didn't give up. She just waited for the right moment. She showed up halfway through dinner, uninvited. I saw her walk in and my blood froze. She looked terrible, thin, haggard, her platinum blonde hair grown out to show dark roots. She wore a dress I recognized from my Instagram, one I'd worn to a book signing last month. On me, it had looked elegant. On her, it looked desperate. "Surprise," she said, her voice brittle and bright. I couldn't miss my little sister's birthday. The restaurant went quiet. My friends looked at me, uncertain. Daniel stood up, protective, but I waved him down. "How did you know where I'd be?" I asked calmly. "Mom told me. She thought I should come, thought we should reconcile. After all, we're family." She smiled, and it was all teeth. "Besides, I have a present for you." She held out a bottle of champagne, expensive, French, the label elegant and probably too pricey for her boutique salary. The same type she'd served me in my first life. The same type I'd choked on. Every instinct in my body screamed danger. This was it, the moment I'd been preparing for, the echo of my first death. Maya had come to finish what she'd started in another timeline, even if she didn't consciously remember it, but I wasn't the scared, broken girl I'd been in my first life. I was Platinum Sasha, best-selling author with a restaurant full of witnesses and a fiancé who'd fight a bear for me. "No, thank you," I said clearly. I don't accept gifts from you." "Don't be like that," Maya said, her voice taking on a wheedling tone. "It's good champagne. Really good. I picked it out especially for you. You have to at least try it." "But," she said. "No," Daniel said, standing up now. "You need to leave." "I'm not leaving until she takes my gift. I came all this way, spent money I don't have, and she won't even—" Maya's voice was rising, hysterical now. She started to open the champagne bottle herself, right there in the restaurant. "If she won't drink it, fine. I'll drink it to her health." "Stop," I said, and something in my tone made everyone freeze. I stood up slowly, walked over to Maya, and took the bottle from her hands. "You want me to accept your gift?" "Fine, I accept it." I carried the bottle to the bar and set it down. "Could you test this, please?" I asked the bartender. "I'd like to know what's in it." Maya's face went white. "What are you implying?" "You know exactly what I'm implying." The bartender, bless him, took the bottle seriously. Maybe it was my tone, or maybe it was the way everyone in the restaurant was now watching. He opened it carefully, poured a small amount into a glass, smelled it. His expression changed. "Ma'am, I'm not sure what this is, but it doesn't smell right. It smells like champagne, but there's something else. Something bitter. I wouldn't drink this." The restaurant erupted. My friends were on their feet. Someone was calling the police. Daniel had his arm around me, pulling me away from Maya, who was backing toward the door, shaking her head frantically. I didn't. It's not. You're crazy, Sasha. You've always been crazy. Get out, I said, my voice steady despite the rage and fear burning through me. Get out of my life. Get out of my city. Get out of my story. I'm done with you. Maya ran, actually ran, stumbling in her heels, disappearing into the night. I never saw her again. The police came, they took the bottle. They tested it. Rat poison mixed with champagne in a dose that might not kill but would certainly make someone violently ill, maybe even cause permanent damage. Maya hadn't been trying to murder me. That would be too obvious, too risky. But she'd wanted to ruin my birthday, ruin my celebration, maybe put me in the hospital, punish me for succeeding where she'd failed. They found her 3 days later at our parents' house. She confessed everything, not to the first life murder I couldn't prove, but to this one. She'd been planning it for weeks, she said. She couldn't stand watching me succeed anymore, couldn't stand that I was happy while she was miserable. Couldn't stand that her copying, her stealing, her sabotage didn't work anymore. She was charged with attempted poisoning. The trial was quick. She'd confessed, there were witnesses, there was physical evidence. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by mandatory psychiatric treatment. Mom called me sobbing. How could you do this to your sister? How could you let them take her away? I didn't do anything to her, I said. She did this to herself. She's been doing it to herself for years. I just stopped letting her do it to me. I hung up. I didn't block the number, I just never answered it again. The aftermath was surreal. My story went viral. Best-selling author's sister attempts to poison her at birthday party was tabloid gold. My publisher was horrified and thrilled in equal measure. My book sales tripled. I was invited on talk shows, podcasts, news programs. Everyone wanted to hear about the sister who'd copied me, stolen from me, tried to destroy me. I told them a carefully edited version. I talked about toxic family dynamics, about the importance of boundaries, about how success sometimes means leaving people behind. I didn't mention being reborn, didn't mention knowing it was coming. I just told them enough to make sense, enough to help other people in similar situations. Platinum Girl became more than a book. It became a movement. Women wrote to me by the thousands, sharing their stories of sisters, mothers, friends who'd undermined them. Stories of being copied, erased, sabotaged by the people who were supposed to love them most. I'd accidentally created a space for a kind of pain that people rarely acknowledged. I wrote a second book, After Platinum, on building a life that can't be stolen. It did even better than the first. I went on a book tour. I spoke at universities. I started a podcast. I became, despite never intending it, a voice for women who'd been made small by the people who should have lifted them up. And Maya, she served her time. I heard through Jenny, the only connection I maintained to my old life, that she got out after 2.5 years for good behavior. She moved to another state, changed her last name, dyed her hair dark brown. She worked retail jobs and saw a therapist weekly. She never tried to contact me. Good. Now I'm 28, 5 years past my first death date, and my life is unrecognizable from either of my timelines. I have 3 best-selling books. I have a speaking career that takes me around the world. I have a husband who loves me and supports me and would never, ever betray me for someone else. I have money, success, happiness, and peace. Most importantly, I have myself. The real me, not the shadow Maya tried to keep me as. Not the desperate, depressed girl who died at 23, poisoned and alone. I'm Platinum Sasha, and I'm exactly who I was always meant to be. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never been reborn, if I'd just died that first time and stayed dead. Would Maya have gotten away with it? Would she have taken my place, stolen my life so completely that no one remembered the real me? Probably. But I did get a second chance. And I used it to become untouchable. Last month, I got a letter. No return address, postmarked from a city I didn't recognize. Inside was a single page, handwritten in Maya's cramped, familiar script. I've been going to therapy, trying to figure out why I am the way I am. My therapist says I was jealous, because you had something I couldn't copy. authenticity. She says I spent so long being what other people wanted that I forgot how to be real. I'm trying to learn now. It's hard. I'm sorry for what I did. All of it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I took from you, and I'm sorry I tried to take even more. I hope you're happy. From what I can see online, you are. You deserve it. You always did. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer, unanswered. Maybe someday I'll feel ready to respond, to offer some kind of closure. But not yet. Maybe not ever. Because here's what Maya never understood. You can't steal someone's life if they refuse to be a victim. You can't copy someone who keeps evolving. You can't dim a light that's learned how to burn on its own. She dyed her hair my auburn shade, trying to steal the one thing that was distinctly mine. After Rebirth, I went platinum, and she couldn't keep up. Not with my hair, not with my life, not with the person I became when I finally stopped letting her define me. I look at my platinum blonde hair in the mirror now, longer, healthier, still striking even after all these years. It's as much a part of me as my name, my career, my story. It's the visible symbol of the choice I made at 14 to be bold instead of safe, to stand out instead of blend in, to become someone who couldn't be copied because I was too busy being original. Maya wanted to be me, but I didn't even want to be the me I was before. I wanted to be better, stronger, freer. And I am. Last week, Daniel and I found out I'm pregnant. A daughter. We're going to name her Aurora. Dawn. New beginning. I'm going to teach her to be herself from day one, to value her voice, to protect her light, to never, ever let anyone make her small. And if she wants to dye her hair platinum blonde like her mama, I'll take her to the best salon in the city. Because some things are worth inheriting. Confidence, authenticity, the courage to choose yourself, but she'll have to earn them, just like I did. And she'll understand that being yourself isn't about a color or a style or a trend. It's about the choice you make every day to be real, even when it's hard, even when people want you to be something else. That's the lesson Maya never learned. That's why she couldn't keep up. And that's why I'm here, happy and whole and platinum, writing my 4th book while my sister is wherever she is, hopefully learning to be someone real. I won. Completely, totally, permanently. Not because I destroyed Maya, though I could have, and maybe part of me wanted to, but because I built something she couldn't touch, couldn't tarnish, couldn't steal. I built myself, and it turns out that when you're genuinely, authentically yourself, you're impossible to copy. The platinum hair was just the beginning. A symbol, a statement, a line in the sand. But what came after? The work, the growth, the success, the life. That was all me. The real me. The me I died to become. And I'm never going back. Tonight, Daniel and I are going out to dinner. The same restaurant where Maya tried to poison me 5 years ago. We're celebrating the new book deal, the pregnancy, the life we've built together. The owner knows us now. We're regulars. She's promised to have our favorite table ready, with sparkling cider instead of champagne. I'll wear something platinum colored because why not? I'll laugh and eat and celebrate being alive, really alive, in a way I never was in my first life. And if I see a woman with auburn hair at another table, I won't flinch. Because that color doesn't define me anymore. It never did. I'm platinum now, bright, bold, impossible to miss. And I shine on my own terms. That's the thing about being reborn. You get to choose who you become. And I chose to be someone who couldn't be dimmed, couldn't be copied, couldn't be anything but brilliantly, defiantly myself. Maya wanted to steal my light. Instead, she taught me how to burn brighter than she could ever imagine. And for that, in a twisted way, I suppose I should thank her. But I won't. Because Maya isn't part of my story anymore. She's a chapter I've closed, a lesson I've learned, a shadow I've outrun. I'm the author now, of my books, my life, my future. And the story I'm writing doesn't have room for people who want to make me smaller. It only has room for truth, growth, love, and the kind of happiness that comes from being unapologetically, authentically, platinumly yourself. The end? No. This is just the beginning. The real beginning, the one I chose for myself. and it's better than anything I could have imagined in either of my lives. I'm Platinum Sasha, and I'm finally completely triumphantly free.